Okay, thank you. There. Okay.
As much as you need.
Stop distracting me.
That's always been the people.
Talking about working out. I was like, distracted.
I gotta talk about it. It's how I hold myself accountable.
Okay.
If it came for me, it came today, because I haven't seen it.
Good evening and welcome to the March 5, 2024 regular meeting of the Township Board for the Charter Township of Meridian. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk Guthrie, are you handling secretary duties tonight?
Yes, I am.
Please give us a roll call.
Okay. Supervisor Jackson,
Here.
Clerk Guthrie is here. Treasurer DeShane.
Here.
Trustee Hendrickson.
Here.
Trustee Sunland.
Here.
Trustee Wilson.
Here.
Trustee Trezise.
Here.
All board members are present.
Thank you. Item 4 on our agenda is presentations. Tonight we have 2. The first is the introduction of new police officers by Chief Grillo.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for having us up here. This is a good day today. I was asked at a recent meeting by Treasurer DeShane to give an update on hiring as well as to introduce my 2 new people. So I'm going to start with an update on hiring. When I came before you in October, I used words such as grim and dire to describe my staffing situation, and there was no smile on this face. I'm smiling today. I'm smiling today. Our request for the recruiting and retention program was granted by you all in December, and I got to work right away with my team on filling our open positions. It's been extraordinarily successful so far. I can say that in the 8 weeks, is it? 8 or 9 weeks since we've enacted this, I have 10 of the positions actively being filled. As of today, with the hiring of these 2 young men, we have 34 officers. And that's a little bit of a moving target because I've got an officer that retires next week. And then 2 weeks after that, I've got 2 that are graduating from the police academy. So to give you a fair number is kind of challenging at this time. But I wanted to, again, express my gratitude to the manager Walsh and to you all for the steps that you took to help me address this staffing situation. First off, Mike Hagbaum. Mike is a graduate of the Grand Valley State University, go Lakers, in 2007. He worked for the Ingham County Sheriff's Department for a number of years before coming to work for Meridian Township in 2013. He worked his way through the ranks at Meridian, became a sergeant, was an investigator, instructed several classes for us. And he had an opportunity in the private sector to do something a little different, so he stepped away for a few years. And it's my understanding that part of his motivation to come back was the recruiting and retention program. So he reapplied with us. He was actively recruited by a few of our officers, and I'm extraordinarily pleased to have him back. He was a fantastic officer when he was working for us before, and he's going to continue to be a fantastic officer as well. Second officer is Alex Stachura. Alex is from Williamston, where he lives with his family. He was a EMT and for a number of years. He worked for Sparrow Emergency as well as a private ambulance company. And he, again, kind of dedicated his life to service, decided he wanted to step out of the EMT world and step into the law enforcement world. We sponsored him through the police academy that graduated in May of 2023, and he began his training. Throughout his training, some personal things popped up in his life, and he, shortly after I became chief, he sent me a message saying that he had to step away and that he had to resign. But he said it was temporary, and I said, I'm going to hold on to your badge and your ID, and when you're ready to come back, you let me know.
Locker.
Yeah, and we put a padlock on his locker because we didn't want anybody pilfering his uniforms or any of his equipment. So that was a promise I made to him. He kept his promise, and they both began their tours on Monday. So these are our two new hires, Mike Hagbaum and Alex Stachura. Mike?
I just want to thank the board and Frank and Chief Grill for having me back. Like Chief Grill said, I was here for a little over 8 years, so I'm just happy to be back and ready to serve the community. So thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I just want to tell you that I'm so thankful for this opportunity. I'm very grateful, and I'm so excited to be back and serving the township once again. Like Chief said, I was an EMT, and I served the community at Patriot Ambulance just right up the road. So I'm very happy to be serving the community again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item 4B is the Prime Meridian Magazine presentation. I believe it's going to be delivered to us by Manager Samantha Down.
So, hi everyone, my name is Samantha. I'm the communications manager for the township. I'm gonna have our main designer here, Rachel, is gonna be giving the main presentation since she was the one who came up with a lot of the concepts for this. But really excited to show the Prime Meridian magazine off. It's a really fun thing to work on. It's also very difficult. You have 16 pages to fill all the incredible things about our township in with, and it's just been really fun to work on, and I'll have Rachel walk you through it.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. For anyone in the room who doesn't know me, and to Peter, who's a new member on the board, my name is Rachel Stolen, and I am the Marketing and Public Relations Specialist for the township, so I handle things from social media to newsletters, print marketing, and beyond, and I'm very proud to present the Prime Meridian magazine to each of you. Some of you might know that we have encountered some delivery date delays. We originally anticipated about mid-February, and a few different moving variables have accounted for delays for us to now anticipate probably next week. And the biggest factor there was the back and forth design, making sure our final proof with Allegra printing and marketing was absolutely perfect for our community. We wanted this to be something we were proud of. We wanted no room for errors, and so it accounted for about 2 weeks of that delay, and then some miscellaneous things have accounted for the other parts. With this being a very large undertaking, I cannot go without acknowledging and thanking many people that were involved. Our proofreaders, so that was everyone between communications manager Sam Deal, who helped kind of co-lead this project, Melissa Massey, Denisha McDowell, Ellie Ortiz, Leslie Charles on our communications commission. She lended her amazing authorship skills and found every grammar error that was in this magazine. Moving to photography, that again goes a lot of credits to Sam Deal, Cortland Jenkins, who's at many of our events. One photo, I believe, was taken by Clerk Deborah Guthrie on our elections page, as well as many past staff of the communications department. thanking all the department heads and staff who responded with the content that they wanted in this magazine. I didn't really have to chase anyone down. Everyone was on it, and that helped our timeline work along smoothly. Allegro Printing for doing a stellar job. We've had absolutely amazing customer service with them. And then, most importantly, I want to thank the Township Board and Township Manager Frank Walsh for keeping communications and community engagement a priority. Our department makes sure that the community is readily informed of anything that's going on. And this is our main source of reaching all of our township residents. Our social media, newsletters, we try to reach everyone we can, but it doesn't necessarily get that far. This is reaching every doorstep in the township, so we appreciate the funding there. Going over the magazine as a whole, I want to reiterate the importance of this print mass mailing. I like to say paper is king. It's something that everyone can hold and hold on to for a longer period. We're reaching that full population. We're reaching residents without internet, new residents who may not have interacted with us previously or know where to find us, and then those non-tech savvy individuals who really prefer those paper communications. We also, behind this magazine, really wanted to take a lot of pride in what we were doing and making sure that we are an exceptional neighbor to our diverse set of residents. Many know that Meridian Township is home to different students, business professionals, university professionals, families, retirees, couples, individuals who are here for a short period of time or are here for a much longer period of time that understand our community to varying degrees. And so this is our way of reaching our individuals at different levels of understanding and putting our best foot forward for each of them. The content of this magazine, if I can skip to our table of contents, it's kind of hard to see on this screen, but there's the list of different topics that we discuss here, and the contents that are, or the topics that are in here were guided by community interest. So those questions we hear the most about on social media, the questions we get the phone calls about, we hear the most passion and intrigue about. That's what really guided this, as well as what each of you heard at those fall board listening sessions. We wanted to make sure that those topics were covered right up front in the magazine. So those first few pages, you see a lot about township projects, developments, events, elections, and those things that people were really concerned about in the coming years. The design of this magazine was also guided by our vibrant, energetic, forward-thinking community. We've made a lot of actions in 2023, and we're continuing to do so in 2024. And so I wanted the design and information included to really convey that idea. And then also a key thing in this magazine, it's really highlighted in the digital edition, but it's prevalent in the print edition as well. We're using this to start conversations with residents and make sure that that conversation is continued. So this magazine has all your essentials and basics about the township. It gets that conversation started so people have the gist of what's going on, and if they're interested, they have access to plenty more information, whether it's through website links, extra contact information, social media, and etc. And going backwards, I noticed I missed something. Two topics that are not mentioned in this magazine, but I really wish we had the space for it. It was just a space limitation that reduced this. Our police department and our fire department are not in that list of topics, and we wanted to make sure that people could still access that information as needed. So like I said, the links are there, the social media is there, and on the back page, I really wanted to highlight, right on that back cover, so no one even has to open the magazine to see this, we put the link and the QR code to the emergency alert system we have so people can easily see and know that we have that option and can access those alerts as needed. I'll jump back here to the front cover. And I'll give it like a brief click through the pages here shortly, but with this magazine being a large undertaking, and we know that all large undertakings in Meridian Township do come with a financial cost, so I wanted to present that information as well. The cost of this magazine, we ended up coming $36 over the budget that we were provided. So we stayed almost within our bounds, but there was some reasoning there that I really want to emphasize. We really pin this on the cost of inflation. We all know what's going on there. And then the rising number of residential units in the township, which is a highlight, but it also comes with increased communication costs to reach each of those individuals. To look at the printing side of things, I pulled numbers from 2019 and 2020 to compare to present day. 2020, we printed 24,000 24-page magazines, so more pages than this. And that came out to about $4,500 for the magazine. This time around, we're printing 27,800 magazines at 16 pages. So I want to emphasize here, this is about 100,000 less pages that we're doing compared to years past, but this is $6,700 in printing costs. So that's about $2,200 more in printing. So that's definitely risen, but the real cost rise we see is definitely with postage and mailing. In 2019, the postage and mailing service cost for about those 24,000 magazines I mentioned earlier, $4,300. 2024, that rose to $7,000. So it's reaching all the residents. It's, in my opinion, the best form of communication because it's reaching every doorstep. It's in people's hands. It's for the people who don't have the accessibility to get those other options, but there is that cost increase. And so we really wanted to make that point of where that comes from and why you guys see it on bills sometimes. I wanted to highlight, with that quote, that was the lowest quote that we were presented. The next highest was about $14,700 for all of that, whereas the low quote was about $36 over budget, so we'll take that. Allegro Printing and Marketing also had the mailing abilities that others did not, and we've also worked plenty of times with them and had stellar experiences. So I want to give them an extra shout out there. And again, I just want to reiterate the importance. Paper is king, and this was an amazing magazine to work on. And so to give you a brief highlight of what each of the pages look like, we have the first full page spread. It really covers board meetings, how to watch them, main topics that are going on in the township. We wanted to give a little bit of contribution credit to some of our staff for working on the magazine, and then how to use the links that are available throughout the magazine so we don't get those questions later. Township projects, upcoming developments. So you see the MSU to Lake Lansing Trail pictured there, the local roads program, developments that individuals might have questions about in our events and programs in 2024. We have elections information. It does mention presidential primary, but we wanted to make sure that each of the events were included, and the delays that happened kind of tricked us with that event. Basics on paying bills and sustainability. It's the farmers market's 50th anniversary, so can't go without highlighting that market. And then a couple of pages on parks and recreation, the parks map, which is important in each of our publications. How to get involved in our community, and then I think we all on the board love Meridian Cares very much, and so we really wanted to highlight that toward the end and how to contribute to that program and keep it the stellar program that it is. So that was a big highlight on our back page, and then how to stay connected with us. So I hope that this sums it up pretty well, and thank you for letting me come and present about the magazine.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Unplug. Okay.
Okay, we now move to item 5 on our agenda, where citizens address agenda items and non-agenda items. I have one green slip, and that's for Nicholas Lint. If you would come to the podium and give us your name and address, we'd be happy to hear your comments.
Hi, everyone. I know a few of you. My name is Nicholas Lenz. I've recently filed to run for county commission in the 13th district, and Trustee Hendrickson had welcomed me to come and make a public address. I currently serve on the Ingham County Parks Commission, and as a proud Meridian Township resident, I'm happy to attend these meetings where previously I was a reader of the minutes. So looking forward to hopefully working with all of you in an official capacity, but in the meantime, I live in that big red house right next to what used to be City Limits East, now is Pins and Pints. Feel free to come on over anytime and talk to me about anything related to the few rural areas in our township or anything in between. Or you can see me with my dog in a park just about every day. So can't imagine you have any questions for me right now, but thank you for allowing me to take the time.
Thank you.
What kind of dog do you have?
Officially a mutt. My mom paid for her to get the testing done, and it was like 10% bulldog, 40% pit bull, 10% a million other little things. So she's a 60-pound, 8-year-old terror most of the time. But luckily she has friends to wear her out, so I can come here and present to all of you in the evening. So thank you.
Thank you.
Are there other members in the audience that would like to speak to the board at this time? Item 6 on our agenda is the Township Manager's Report. Mr. Frank Walsh.
Good evening, Supervisor Jackson, members of the board. Good to see you this evening. Alex, Michael, Rachel, you see those three and it makes you really proud what we have here. When I was talking to Samantha Deal, our communications manager, a year and a half ago when she made this hire, we had 4 really strong candidates. And I asked her who she was going to hire, and she said, Rachel really is just a little step above the rest of them, and she was so right. We've got a great team, and they're doing excellent work. Speaking of that, employee-wise and staff-wise, we have a few individuals who are celebrating anniversaries this week. I just want to point those out and start first of all with Giannis Ashredi. Giannis in the engineering department on March 1st celebrated 35 years of service with us. Katie Adams in the Parks Department, 18 years, just last week. Andrew McCready in the Police Department, 24 years of service. And Christy Shading in the Police Department, 15 years of service. Dan Inman in the Parks Department, 7 years of service. Ron Rao in the building, 6 years. And Jamie Barrows, one of our administrative assistants up in the building department, 2 years of service. And speaking of that, we have 156 full-time staff. We have 100, take away the police department's staffing, we have 1 vacancy in the township. So 1, and that's upstairs, filling Niall Dunn's former position. We have little turnover, and we're proud of our retention and attraction. Some things coming up at your next board meeting you can start to think about right now is there's some discussion on the planning commission level. Right now, our ordinance says we have 9 members. Many communities in Michigan have 7. One of the issues we have, simply, and Trustee Trezise will probably can speak to this, is the arrangement of trying to seat 9 at the table becomes an issue. It's a little bit of an equity issue because typically someone has to sit down here. Sometimes somebody stood at the back. So anyway, we had a meeting last week with Supervisor Jackson and the leadership of the Planning Commission and Director Schmidt, and we talked through how this might work. I believe Supervisor Jackson will be bringing that issue to you at the next couple of meetings, but something to start thinking about. Local road bids. The bids came in great. We actually got the bids accomplished in the winter rather than the spring, which is a big achievement for us, and it helped us with our bids. You'll see those bids and the list of roads probably at your next meeting. You'll also see the outdoor gathering permit and the fireworks permit for Celebrate Meridian. And I know some of you have been originally talking, I think it was Trustee Hendrickson and Trustee Wilson that brought up Marshall Park. This seems like it was a long time ago. It was about 3 months ago. But anyway, the designs are in. The Park Commission has reviewed them. There's a choice, and that choice will actually be before you on March 19th. And if it's okay with Supervisor Jackson, we'll be putting that on to move that evening so we can keep the timelines going. The goal is still to have the playground and improvements at Marshall Park up on the north end of the community in place in June. So we're on target for that. Also, at the next meeting, you'll see first quarter budget amendments. The DDA has a facade program, and we have our first applicant. The DDA met yesterday morning, early, and Evergreen Veterinary Office, and is it Topher's, thank you, is also in that building, and they're putting in for a facade improvement through the DDA, and you'll hear more about that in the future. Director Clark is working on that. Also, we're seeing increased activity. One of the goals that we've had is to increase the number of participants' activities at the Snell Tower Center, and we're seeing that grow. We're up to 8 to 10 kids attending events there now, which doesn't seem like a lot, but from 1 or 2, that's a big increase. The bids are in for the Central Park Pavilion project. You'll be seeing those as we move forward here in the next month. Recreational marijuana. That's been obviously on the table for quite some time with the board, as you're aware. You will see, I believe, 3 of the applicants and special use permits at your April 2nd introduction and April 16th meetings. You'll see 3 of the applicants before you. They've been through the local committee here, which consists of Director Schmidt, Director Clark, and planning Keith Chapman. So those will be coming before you. Recreational marijuana appears to be moving forward. I want to acknowledge the clerk and the work in the clerks in the recent election. I've seen, as I said at Rotary today, I've seen a lot of elections here in my 11 years. And I want to thank Trustee Trezise as well, who was involved in the election, and anyone else who helped out. But really good to see the election process here at Meridian Township work. Maybe it wasn't flawless, but from a person like me looking at it, it was much, much, much better than what we've ever seen here at the township. Copper Creek, the development up in Hazlet, doing very well. That's a Mayberry development. They're going forward with phase 3 and 4. And you're all invited to celebrate Chrissy Scatia. Chrissy Scatia has been with the, as Chief Grillo mentioned, had a retirement coming up. It's Chrissy Scatia, who's been here 25 years, and that retirement will be in this room March 14th at 3 o'clock. I think that concludes. I just want to conclude by thanking, I'm really proud when I see Chief Grillo and Chief Hamill come up and talk about. It's very difficult. You have states that are declaring state of emergencies because they don't have enough emergency personnel. It's a huge issue in this country, and it's going to continue to exacerbate as we move forward. And I'm proud that we are within a few months of being, and we have 36 and 42. I mean, you're talking 80 public safety personnel, and it's not going to be long before we're fully staffed. We have almost 100% occupancy in our township, and we're doing extremely well, and I'm proud of our efforts. So that's all I have for you this evening.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board members? Questions or comments? Then we move on to item 7, board member reports of activities and announcements. We'll start with Trustee Wilson tonight.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. As many of you know, we lost our bagpiper, Terry Carroll, on February 20th. He passed away. And I want to read a resolution that we have all agreed to put forward in honor of Terry. At a regular meeting of the Township Board of the Charter Township of Meridian, Ingham County, Michigan, held on the 5th of March at 6 p.m., whereas Terry Carroll was born in New Jersey and raised in County Clare, Ireland, and whereas he moved to Okemos in 1980, and whereas Terry was an accomplished Highland bagpipe player and a regular in the Glen Aaron Pipe Band, Lansing's only area drum band, and whereas Terry was a fixture playing his bagpipes for weddings. I attended a wedding 26 years ago at St. Catherine's where he played the pipes. Funerals, police and firefighter events, and Meridian Township Memorial Day services for many years, right, Deb?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Whereas Terry was known for his generosity in offering to play at more events than we can count, and whereas Terry and his bagpipes were known to virtually everyone in the community, and many residents called him friend. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Board of the Charter Township of Meridian, Ingham County, Michigan, we offer this posthumous tribute and deep appreciation to Terry Carroll for his unbridled friendship and gift of music.
Thank you. Other board members have comments? Mr. DeShane?
Thank you, Supervisor. I knew Terry through the Okemos Kiwanis Club. He's a 30-year member of that and was very involved in every one of their activities and a very committed member of the community. And of course, we all heard him play over the years, and he made such a difference for so many important events. Last Thursday was the last day to pay taxes here in the township, and both property ad valorem taxes and personal property taxes, and I want to give the board a quick update. On Friday, the day after the due date, 483 delinquent parcels were turned over to the county treasurer out of 15,000 properties, so less than 1 in 30. These totaled delinquent taxes of $1.2 million out of a total $77.5 million billed. And as we've discussed before, most of that money goes right out to our schools. This means that 98.5% of our property taxes were paid on time by our residents. We're very fortunate. Second, taxes due in February were personal property taxes. This is tax on business machinery and inventory. Most small businesses are now exempt for that, and if they fill out the form with the assessor's office, they won't get any more personal property tax bills. But as of the end of the month, we had 90 delinquent personal property tax parcels totaling 53,000 out of 4.5 million billed. So only 1.1% were delinquent, or nearly 99% of the personal property taxes were paid as well. Again, our residents comply with our tax bills and they pay them on time. We're very, very fortunate here. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk Guthrie?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I first want to thank Trustee Marna Wilson for putting together this tribute to Terry Carroll. There was something magical about his music and showing up to an event where he was playing it. And he was sort of a magical person in and of himself, and how kind-hearted he was to everyone. And so, yes, he's done every memorial ceremony that I've put together, contributed his time. And I'll never forget when Kit Rich retired, and I went to the Harris Nature Center, to say goodbye to Kit. Thank you. It's been great working with you. And up he walks up the sidewalk playing his bagpipes on his way into the Harris Nature Center. So just like you said, he did so many events that you just can't even count. He just showed up and did great things like that. So thank you for putting this tribute together for him. And then the elections for presidential primary are done. The votes have been canvassed, so we're happy about that. The county's happy, the township's happy. I have some numbers for you just so you know. This was the first year of early voting, and so early voting is 9 consecutive days of voting, and we had 482 people come out for early voting, which was 1.36% of the voters. But it was 25% of early voters across the county. So yay for Meridian Township voters when you look at that number. And I only expect that number to increase because what we saw in the clerk's office was that rather than voters coming to the clerk's office window to get their absentee ballots and vote absentee, they came into the early voting center and voted early instead. And so that really freed up our time in the clerk's office to be able to prepare for election day. So it was a tremendous benefit, and hopefully let's see that 1.36% increase a little bit. I think it will. We also had 7,100 people vote absentee, which was 20% of the voters, and we had 2,400 people vote in person, which was 7% of the voters. So that continues to go this way with AV and in person going down on election day. So the total turnout for election day is rough numbers, around 10,000 voters, 28% of people turning out to vote in Meridian Township. So thank you to all of the voters who came out, and we look forward to servicing you in August. And just for a quick announcement, there is a May 7th East Lansing Public Schools election. And so Meridian Township does work with East Lansing. We have to give them our voters who live here in Meridian Township. Our ballot boxes need to be open. We need to be open on election day for any voter registration. And so we've sent our letter to the county about how we are working with East Lansing for their school election on May 7th. And we've reached out to the clerk as well. And so we're moving forward on all of that. And that's about it that's going on.
Okay, thank you. Other board members? We're at board member reports of activities and announcements. Oh,
We just did that.
oh, no, I haven't declared it done yet. Because I haven't heard from everybody. Okay. So if no one is interested in contributing to that discussion, we move to item 8, approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Trustee Wilson, do we have a second?
Kathy?
Did you say trustee Sunderland? All in favor of the approval of the agenda? Oh, yeah, all in favor, no, before we talk about the approval of the agenda as written, we have to make some additions to the agenda. So I would like to propose an addition to action items so that the board can set a date for a special session. We have 2 options, and we'll talk about them when we get to that. Is there something else that needs to be added to the agenda?
I think you have to make a motion to amend the agenda.
Oh, okay. So I move to amend the agenda to add item 13B,
C.
12D, set a date for a special session.
Support.
Support? All in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Then that is done.
So now move to approve the agenda as amended.
Is nothing else?
I'm sorry,
Yes.
did we need to add the resolution for Mr. Carroll to the consent agenda perhaps, if we were going to pass that this evening?
Would you like to do that?
I move to add the tribute to Terry Carroll to the consent agenda.
All right. Is there support?
Support.
All in favor of the motion to add the tribute to Mr. Carroll to the consent agenda specifically, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Okay. So now we're ready for approval of the amended agenda.
So moved.
That was you, right? Yes. I seconded it.
Okay. Trustee
Someone?
Sunderland. All in favor of the approval of the agenda as amended, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Chair votes yes, and we move on. Item 9 is the consent agenda. The consent agenda has communications, which I think I will add one to in a minute. Minutes of the February 2024 regular Township Board meeting, the township bills, the township mileage reimbursement proposal from the manager, and ratification of the new police officer appointments, which the 2 police officers we just met. In terms of the communications, I got a letter at the board table tonight, and I would ask that the clerk adds this to the communications. This particular letter is from Linda Jones. Mr. Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I move the consent agenda as amended this evening.
Support.
Support, Mr. DeShane. Mr. Hendrickson.
I did have one question on one of the items on our consent agenda, which I don't think bears pulling off, but I did want to just ask, and that relates to the township mileage rate that was presented by Manager Walsh.
Okay.
This is, I believe, the second time we've gone through and approved the mileage increases. Is there a reason that we choose the specific cents per mile and not, say, peg the township mileage rate to the federal rate?
It is federal.
This is the federal rate. I'm saying, instead of saying we make it 67 cents and then next year when they raise it, we come back and say, now it's 69 cents or whatever, can we just say in the future perhaps we approve that that the federal rate will be the township rate?
Sure, you could do that.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent.
Sure.
Thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions about the consent agenda? Then we need a roll call vote. Clerk Guthrie.
Supervisor Jackson?
Yes.
Clerk Guthrie votes yes. Treasurer DeShane?
Yes.
Trustee Hendrickson?
Yes.
Trustee Sunland?
Yes.
Trustee Trezise?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Item 10, questions for the attorney. We have none tonight. 11 is hearings, and we have none scheduled for tonight. And item 12 is our action items. 12A is ordinance 2024-02, rezone 5681 Shaw Street from PO Professional and Office to RN Village of Namoka Mixed Residential, and it's in front of us tonight for final adoption. Mr. Schmidt, Director Schmidt.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. The request in front of you this evening is, has been discussed a couple of times by the board. At the board's direction at the last meeting, we did publish this for rezoning to RN, which was different than the applicant's original request, which was to RC. Just to remind everyone, we were talking about this building right here, just to the north of Hazlitt Road, on the west side of Shaw Street is the only commercial building on that street. And it's proposed to be, in the long term, the applicant intends to redevelop the property into a small apartment building with this rezoning request. Staff has no further comment. Be happy to recommend approval at this point.
Mr. DeShane.
Dr. Schmidt, from what you can tell, do they plan to rehab the current building or tear it down and start over again?
Rehab the existing building.
Okay.
Is there a motion? Trustee Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I move to adopt the resolution approving ordinance 2024-02, an ordinance to rezone the property at 5681 Shaw Street, parcel ID number 33-02-10-10-428-007, from PO Professional Office to RN Village of Namoka Mixed Residential.
Mr. Trezise. Mr. Trezise seconds that motion. Trustee Wilson, you have
Yes,
more to
ma'am.
say?
This brings the parcel into conformance with the other surrounding parcels, so it's a logical thing to do, and that's why I put it forward.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Trezise, do you have anything to add?
And the only thing I would add is this building has been vacant for many years from the last time it was used as a professional office. And so allowing the owners now to rehab it into a small residential unit, multi-facet residential unit makes a lot of sense. It does fit in with the neighborhood, and the planning commission and site review will have to determine appropriate parking and all the other things that go with multiple housing, but I think it fits into that neighborhood better than an empty building by far.
Okay. Other board member comments? Clerk Guthrie?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I concur with the two trustees and also with this project following the master plan guidelines that we most recently adopted for infill development.
Okay. Anyone else? The motion is to, the motion is to adopt the resolution approving ordinance 2024-02, an ordinance to rezone the property at 5681 Shaw Street, parcel number included, from PO Professional Office to RN Village of Namoka Mixed Residential. Rezoning requires roll call vote.
All right. Clerk Guthrie votes yes. Treasurer DeShane?
Yes.
Trustee Hendrickson?
Yes.
Trustee Sunland?
Yes.
Trustee Trezise?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
And Supervisor Jackson?
Yes,
Motion carries 7-0.
thank you.
Thank you.
Item 12B is a special use permit, number 24-002, for Okemos Gateway LLC, 1614 and 1622 West Grand River Avenue, for a building greater than 25,000 square feet. Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. So the request in front of you this evening is for the property right here located between the old Panera at Grand River and Central Park and the Sparrow facility. So this vacant property right there. Applicant is proposing construction of 127,500 square foot, 3-story climate-controlled self-storage facility. Just to alleviate any rumor that's going around the community, there is no marijuana related to this building. I understand that was floating around based on a Facebook message I got from a friend, and so just wanted to put that on the record. That's not what is under review this evening. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on this in January, ultimately recommended approval at their February 12th meeting. The board reviewed this at their February 20th meeting, raised a series of concerns, and just wanted to address a couple of them this evening. And I know the applicant is here this evening and would like to give a brief presentation to the board. To reiterate, that this was discussed and it went a little back and forth, and I wanted to clarify there will be, under the current design, a variance required from the zoning board of appeals for the lack of setback from the residential developments to the north. 200 feet is required under the ordinance, and only under 50 is provided. The hours of operation, lighting, wetlands, et cetera, will all be addressed through the site plan review, but I can tell you that there are no proposed wetland impacts from this project, and the drainage will also be reviewed through this project. But as you can see, there is a pond, and it's directly adjacent to the Unruh drain, so this project will flow into the Unruh drain, ultimately to the north, hitting Mud Lake Outlet, which eventually gets to the Red Cedar. But those are all site plan related issues that staff and professional services will deal with when we get to that point. So what's in front of the board this evening is specifically the building greater than 25,000 square feet, and I've included in your packet this evening in my memo the standards of review, the purpose of the 25,000 square foot requirement, and the standards of review for the special use permit on page 2 of my memo. There was no clear consensus at the last meeting, and so consistent with our past practice, we provided motions both for approval and denial. Specifically, in either case, the board needs to please explicitly outline your reasons, either for approval or denial, based on the standards outlined previously in the memo. So directly correlating the discussion to the size of the building, bulk of the building, location of the building, impact of the building on neighboring properties, and as it relates to the special use permit requirements. I know the applicant is here this evening. As I mentioned, wish to give a presentation to the board if you'd like, but I have no further comment at this time. Be happy to answer any questions.
Do you have questions of Mr. Schmidt at this point? Then, Mr. Schmidt, if you would introduce the applicants.
Yeah, so I'm not sure actually who's going to come speak, so I think it's the doctor, the good doctor is coming up to speak.
Okay.
I was trying to think how to pronounce your last name.
You give us your name and address.
Sure.
My name is Amar El-Kafaji. I'm here on behalf of Okemos Gateway LLC. Address is 29580 Northwestern Highway, Southfield, Michigan. Madam Supervisor, can I step forward and give out a packet to each of the board members? Have we prepared? Oh, thank you. While those are being passed out, we do want to pay our respects to Terrence. That's a great tribute to him, and it sounds like he did put a lot of smiles on people's lives here in Meridian Township, and, so we do definitely pay our respects to him. And we appreciate your time here tonight. We appreciate all the commentary you were able to give us last time. That really helped us in terms of understanding the concerns that the board has in terms of this development. We are visual learners, so we had our architects skip a few steps and go straight to doing renderings. We got the site, this is based on site plan. So this is the site plan that is provided from the neighborhood behind us, the proposed site plan. We had our architects draw the neighborhood behind us to see where the homes are and see how things are correlated to the development. As you will see, there is one unit, which is unit number 22, which has the side of the home facing this development from 150 feet. Otherwise, every other home there is no backyard that faces our self-storage facility. And you'll see that in the rendering as well as in the site plan that was an exhibit in the letter that we provided to the Township Board.
Excuse me for just a second. Mr. Geeves, can we show what we're looking at?
Yes, I did provide it in digital format, and I know the site plan, the formal site plan is in this. So if you take a look here, so if this is our self-storage facility, sorry, I don't know how to zoom out right here. So if you take a look here, if this is the self-storage facility, we understand we have to go in front of the ZBA to get a 50-foot variance, but we're proposing a 150-foot buffer, as well as leaving all these natural features that are there between and building a beautiful retention pond there. As you can see here, this is the only unit here, number 22, that would, the side of it, which is actually half of it would be a garage, would face semi this, and these are all existing vegetation facing that. So wherever there is a residential piece, a residential home, we are not impeding any sort of view. And you can see that on the rendering that we provided on the first page of this packet to show you where the storage facility is and the homes. If this was any other commercial building, it would be a 100-foot setback that would be required. Self-storage is one of the few that requires a 200-foot setback. So we are 50-foot past if it was a gym or a grocery store. And, we understand that we're in front of this board today to talk specifically about the 25,000 square foot special use permit approval. However, I did see a lot of concerns at the last meeting in terms of the use. So I thought it would be helpful for me to just spend a quick minute on the use and explain on why this is a necessary use and would be a beneficial use to the township. So the township has between homes and apartments, 1,000 units going up right now. All these people do need storage. We live in a seasonal type of environment here in Michigan. We have 4 different seasons. People have to store their furniture. They have to store all sorts of different things. This gives them the flexibility where they don't need that space in their home to store that. Not only that, it helps businesses. There are thousands of businesses. There's a lot of businesses just on this corridor that space is really expensive to rent. When you have a business and you have extra inventory, you have extra supplies, this gives them an opportunity to rent affordable space to store their supplies, to store their outdoor furniture if they're a restaurant that has a patio outside in the summer and then in the winter stores their furniture. It gives them the flexibility to have that without having to rent the space at these astronomical numbers that inflation is causing. The storage facilities help businesses thrive in a community. And this is an essential need. We provided market feasibility studies that show that is well beyond the need. And this is not even enough storage for the township in terms of where it needs to be in line with other communities. This facility is, yes, it's when you read it, it's 127,000 square feet, but the floor plates are 40,000 square feet. For a property that's 8.5 acres, That is about 4,500 square feet of land, of property on each acre, square footage wise, for the floor plate itself. We're not talking about the height here. I understand the height is a concern, but per the ordinance, we are allowed to go up to 35 feet, and we are not asking for a height variance on this. In terms of lighting on the project, we are going to have a photometric plan that will show that there will be zero light penetration to the surrounding properties. We want to work hand in hand with the township. When we presented in front of the Planning Commission seemed enthusiastic about the development because they saw it as a need, and that was the reason we got the approval on the use. They said, this was something that we did not expect to come before us, but understand that it is a need, and I forgot which Planning Commission member it was that said, we believe that this will be filled in no time. And that's our true belief. This project is going to cost over $15 million to build just for the storage facility. And we have the financing in place. We're well capitalized and ready to move forward on it. And we are confident that it's going to be successful. The building is not a building that can't be retrofitted into something else, even though it will never be retrofitted because we know it will be successful. But it is a typical square building that could be retail, it could be office, it could be anything else. I mean, those storage units in the inside are dismantleable. They're not, this facility is something that is really going to help benefit the community, make it affordable for businesses to have space that they need for things that they might not need immediately in their vicinity, in their space, but not have to drive all the way to East Lansing to go pick up their materials. They could be within their community to have this, and this provides them that opportunity. There are garage doors on the building that allow people to go in. The garage door closes, then the moving starts inside the building, so there's no sound penetration leaving the building. In terms of traffic, a lot of times we see in terms of projects, increased size means increased traffic. That's not the case here. With this self-storage facility, there's negligible traffic, and we've shown that in a comprehensive traffic study. So there is no traffic. We are not impeding on the impact of the residential development behind us. There's one unit that possibly may see it from walking around to their side yard, but besides that, they're going to see a brand-new, beautiful retention pond. We're already working with the Drain Commission to make sure that we are self-sustaining the property on this, with that. We are not impeding any wetlands. We made sure that all the wetlands are far away from this, and we are preserving the wetlands. We are not asking for wetland mitigations. We are working on really making this something that could be great for the community and hope to work together on this. I'm here for any questions, and we really appreciate your time here. And you can see through the renderings how, we just wanted to give you more of a visual to see it, and we're here to answer any questions. I hope the letter addressed a lot of them as well, and appreciate your time tonight.
Okay, let's get to that. Board members, do you have questions, comments? Clerk Guthrie.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I have a question for Deputy Township Manager Dan Opsimer.
Good evening, board members.
Thank you. I hope I am asking the right person. I'm pretty sure I am, but maybe you kicked the can to Tim, I'm not sure. Can you explain the UNRWA drain, how old it is, the condition of it, the expandability of it? What is the condition of that drain right now?
I can't give you any information on the current condition of the drain itself, but what I can tell you is the Grand Reserve development to the north, the drain office required that development to have detention basins adequate to store a 100-year event, so a 100-year storm event. And I believe the drain office would make the developer before you this evening do the same detention on their site.
Do you know the capacity of this? Like, how much development can be built around this area for the capacity of this under drain? And do you know how old this drain is?
Well, as long as you set aside enough land on each site to store and detain a 100-year storm, you're going to have capacity you're really not adding any need for the under drain capacity. However, the drain office has been talking to us about a project that they're proposing to the detention basin, which would be immediately east of this site and south of the Grand Reserve site, but to date, we have no documents from the drain office regarding that. But generally speaking, if you're adding detention basins on the property that the development has proposed and you're storing enough water for a 100-year event, that is well in excess of what most drain offices would require.
And that is what is being proposed here. We have spoken to the
Thank you,
Drain
Dan.
Commission. And we are not going to be adding to the capacity of the on-red drain. We are creating our own detention basins that will be self-sustaining for the property that the Drain Commission does feel comfortable with moving forward. We've been dealing with Carla Claus at the Ingham County Drain Commission hand in hand on this to move this project forward, and she's well aware of this. And her engineers from PA are working with our engineers at NOAC and Frost to create the calculations for this pond. That pond might grow a little bit, it might shrink a little bit, but they just wanted to have a space, but we have the space there to grow it if it needs to be. They just thought this was a good size at this point for the preliminary with their initial calculations. Once final engineering is done, they will go ahead and have the exact size, but it will be there won't be any worry in terms of any excess flow or anything that could cause an issue for flooding.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Board members? Thank you.
Thank you.
So we are at action. We have two options, one for approval or denial. Yes, Mr. Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. And I want to thank Director Schmidt as well as the applicant for coming back before us and presenting this information again. We can't talk about what it is. We can only talk about what impact the size of this building will have.
Right.
And I do appreciate the renderings that were provided this evening by the applicant's architects. I think those are always helpful to get a picture. It's one thing to look at the Google Maps or walk the property. It's another to try to get a sense of what the scope of it would be. And I disagree with the applicant's notion that only one side of one property would be affected by a building of this size. It's all well and good to look at a rendering of what trees could be on a property like this, but they may not be there in 5-10 years, and this building would be. And so now we're talking about a whole street's worth of properties that back up and look at a massive building. I think the impact of a building this size, this close to a residential area would be much larger than what was presented this evening. And so I would have a very difficult time coming to approving a grouping of buildings or a building that's this big and this tall, this close to what is a residential neighborhood, or what will be. And so we're up on action for this evening. And so I will go ahead and make a motion, and we'll see how things go. I move to adopt the resolution denying special use permit 2402, a request for a building greater than 25,000 square feet at 1614 and 1622 West Grand River Avenue, parcel ID numbers 33020222426001 and 33020222401003. The subject property is zoned C2 commercial, and the applicant is proposing a 3-story climate-controlled self-storage facility.
Support.
Support proposed by trustee Hendrickson, supported by clerk Guthrie. Mr. Hendrickson, would you like to further support your motion?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. Yeah, I'll simply add as most of my comments leading up to that were about the motion, that I appreciate the role of Director Schmidt in helping to allay some of the misinformation that was out there about this project. Certainly, you know, these things travel fast. News travels fast, and it's important to get it right. And so I appreciate the assist on that.
Clerk Guthrie?
I concur with my colleague, trustee Hendrickson, on his summary of the project. I'm not 100% confident, or even 50% confident, that this project will not directly or indirectly have a substantial adverse impact on the natural resources of the township. So when you ask for specific SUP reasons for denial, I do not believe that it wouldn't have an adverse impact on the natural resources of the township, given the size of the building, not only the size of the proposed building, but the amount of concrete surface that is going to be there for the parking lot area. In addition, I'm not confident in the stormwater drainage, where that stormwater is going to go, where the runoff water is going to go. I haven't seen through this project or through the clarification from the items that we asked about in the last meeting that those were adequately responded to. In your memo, you say the drainage for the project still needs to be fully reviewed. Will flow into the under drain, which flows north, eventually hitting, blah, 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 it goes on and on. But I don't think that that has been fully reviewed and fully fleshed out. And so in regards to the water flow, where the drainage is going to go, I'm not confident in that part of the SUP either. And it does not fit what the board voted on to have infill development over development on empty land.
Other board members? Mr. Trezise.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I am torn on this. This is a rather large piece of property. I think it said 8 acres or something in excess of that. Anything built on this is infill, whether it's 25,000 square feet or 10,000 square feet. I appreciate the concern with the residential units to the north, but this could be taken care of through landscaping, through trees. There are some there that could be replaced if they come down. It's 150 feet from the property line. There's also a setback for the housing. So it's approaching probably 200 feet to the nearest house, if it's not quite there. I think I would support the SUP on this one.
Other board members? Mr. DeShane?
I will support trustee Henderson's motion to refuse this SUP. I believe the size is too large for the parcel, particularly while it meets the height requirements. It will be very visible from the new neighborhood, and it'll be very visible, tall, 3-story building from the road. I just believe it's too large of a building for that parcel, and the height will stand out considerably from all around it. I wish the applicant had brought a more appropriate size building before us. A third the size maybe, a single story would have been a different discussion, but 3 stories on this parcel to me is too large. So I will vote not to approve the special use permit.
Other board members? Okay. The motion is to deny, move to adopt the resolution denying special use permit 24-02, a request for a building greater than 25,000 square feet at 1614 and 1622 West Grand River Avenue, parcel IDs as noted. The subject property is Zone C2, commercial, and the applicant is proposing a 3-story, climate-controlled, self-storage facility. Special use permit, I believe we need a roll call vote as well. Clerk Guthrie.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. Treasurer DeShane,
Yes.
Trustee Hendrickson,
Yes.
Trustee Sumlin,
Yes.
Trustee Trezise,
No.
Trustee Wilson,
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson,
Yes.
and Clerk Guthrie votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next items are board discussion items. I need to have a break because I'm running out of power in my computer and I didn't bring my charger. So if we could take 10 minutes?
Okay.
Well, it might take me 10 minutes to get out of there.
10-minute recess, all right.
What time did
Scott,
what time did I,
Scott,
It was at 7:10, so we have another 4 minutes.
4 minutes?
Yep.
how do you leave?
Yeah, 4 minutes left. We have a 10-minute recess. We're in recess.
Lights is good.
Yeah, they want us to buy trees for the guy.
Okay, everybody here? That's what I need. Item 12. Back in a second. Item 12D.
See.
C is 2022 order to maintain sidewalk, resolution number 4. Set a public hearing for April 2, 2024. Everyone is ready. We will hear from Deputy Manager Dan Opsimer on item 12C.
Thank you, Supervisor Jackson and board members. Just to refresh your memory, this was last before you September 6th of 2022. So we did set an ambitious schedule for the order to maintain in 2022, and our contractors could not meet that ambitious schedule. If you look in paragraph 3 of the cover memorandum in your packet, we performed work on sidewalks across 10 different sections of the township. There are 36 sections the township is broken into 36 different sections. And then when you account for the fact that some of those sections have no sidewalks within them, we did work in approximately 1/3 of the geographic area of the township for the 2022 order to maintain. And so that's why this is coming back to you now. So we completed the construction over 2022 and 2023. That work is complete, and this is the normal time of the year when we bring this back to you. And what we have before you tonight is the second draft of the assessments. And so again, when we're doing sidewalks, we assess based on the square yard of sidewalk being replaced. And so all of the assessments that are in the assessment roll before you are based on the actual quantities of sidewalk that were replaced down to the square yard. And each resident pays for the square yardage that was replaced along their frontage. Once you approve the resolution before you tonight, that will set the hearing for April 2nd. And each of the residents that has an assessment will receive a notice regarding that assessment. This will be the second notice that they have received. And then that lets them know that if they do have any questions or concerns, they can, one, contact the Department of Public Works and we can speak with them. Or two, they could come to the public hearing and speak to the board and township staff at the public hearing. At which point, once we get beyond the public hearing, we would bring back Resolution 5 after receiving any public comment. And that would finalize the assessment roll, and those assessments would go out in June on the traditional schedule. Happy to answer any questions that you may have this evening.
Trustee Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I move to approve the 2022 order to maintain sidewalks, Special Assessment District Number 20, Resolution Number 4, which files the proposed special assessment roll with the Office of the Township Clerk and sets the date for a public hearing on Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Deshane. Trustee Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. This really speaks to our pro forma of the steps we have to go through to maintain our sidewalk replacement program. So in order for that to continue, this is the resolution that was needed, and I fully support it.
And Mr. Deshane.
This is our annual sidewalk order to maintain, and as always, if a resident wants to maintain their sidewalk on their own, hire their own contractor, they're free to do that if they do it in a timely fashion.
Okay. Mr. Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. Well, as it turns out, my neighborhood was on this list. And I was very curious, as I did not ask, but I was curious as to why there were big X's on the sidewalk all winter. And now I know that ambition is the reason. But I will say that the work that was done was really well done. So I appreciate the good work that the township and its contractors did. It certainly has made it so that my 2-year-old trips less on our walks around the block. So thank you for that.
Anyone else? Mr. Trezise.
I just have a question for Mr. Robson. I'm looking at the documentation you supplied. This is examples of what was sent out before. Is that correct? Because I'm seeing 22, I'm seeing 23, I'm seeing all sorts of dates.
Which documents?
Well, I'm looking at the 22 order to maintain district.
We kind of always continue with the year in which it originated, so we still refer to it as the 2022 order to maintain.
And then the next one is you received a bill called special assessment in June of 23.
Where are you seeing the June
On the
of?
next page, after the first special assessment district 20 for 2022, and then on the next page, it says, how will you be billed? It's page
The page before the
78.
map.
The page 2 of your letter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, so this is the notice that went out in 22, so this was going out prior to construction starting. So this was spring of 22, we had finalized the scope, meaning the neighborhoods or the plats that we were going to perform work in. So at that time, we did hope that we would complete the construction at the end of 22 to be able to assess on the June 2023 assessment roll.
But those dates will be changed in the notice of sent out. I'm just trying to make sure I'm reading this correctly and not totally confused. These are proposed repairs coming up in the summer of 2024, and their bills will come in.
These were repairs that were proposed in 22.
Okay.
And the work occurred in 22 and 23. And then now we are assessing in 24.
Okay.
So the document that you're referencing is the 2022 order to maintain sidewalk. Well, technically, we call this basically our pamphlet, or this is kind of how we convey it to residents before work actually starts occurring. So this is not a legal document that we have to produce in accordance with state law in terms of doing the assessment. So this is more of a Q&A of why is the work occurring, what work is occurring, who's going to pay for the work, that kind of thing. And so this document was mailed out to them. This document will not go back out to these residents. They will instead get, let me look at which page of the packet it is. They're going to receive the page, or the document that's on page 72 of your packet, which is the notice of public hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll notice that
Those are individual with an individual assessment on them.
Yep, correct. Everyone that's actually being assessed, because good thing is we do have a relatively healthy sidewalk network, so many properties do not get assessed, even if we did inspect them. One of my old house was in this special assessment district, didn't receive an assessment, for instance.
I'm just asking to understand what I was reading.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So, and at the very bottom of that, it'll say your special assessment is proposed to be blank dollars, and we'll fill in that blank for each property owner.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, anytime.
Further questions? Then the motion is to approve the 2022 order to maintain sidewalk special assessment district number 20. Resolution, and this is resolution number 4 of that order, which files the proposed special assessment roll with the office of the township clerk and sets the date for the public hearing on Tuesday, April 2, 2024. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Hendrickson?
Yes.
Trustee Sunland?
Yes.
Trustee Trezise?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson?
Yes.
Clerk Guthrie votes yes. Treasurer DeShane?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is 12D, and this is brought forth by myself. I need to get the board to agree with us setting a time for a special meeting to hold a closed session. The dates I have available are March 10, no earlier than 3:30, or March 11, which is Monday, no earlier than 10 a.m. We have two choices.
The Monday at 10 a.m.?
Monday at 10, Sunday at no earlier than 3:30. Go ahead. Yes.
Of those two dates that are available, I would prefer Sunday. I've got a full-time job, and it's relatively short notice to get off what I assume would be a lengthy amount of time for a special session.
Mr. DeShane.
I am out of town this weekend and back on Tuesday. Both those dates I'm not available. This is an important meeting, and I would hope we could get some advanced dates a couple of weeks out that we could all schedule around. But this is the first I've heard of this, and just after tax season, I tend to get away for the weekend, and I am doing that this weekend.
Trustee Wilson.
I'm not available on Sunday, and Monday I work. Everybody knows I've got a full-time volunteer job, pretty much. So I am not available until after 1 o'clock that day, and I would definitely need to know, I have to arrange for sitting at my house.
Anyone else? Okay. So I've got, it would be most desirable to have all board members at this meeting. I need all board members at this meeting. So what I will.
Do we have any other choices?
Not at this point, because we're also building around the schedules of at least 2 other people.
Oh, I see.
So this is a difficult thing to do. Apparently, so I will conclude that neither of these dates will do.
If we want everybody.
and go
there.
back, and go back and look for later dates. Okay.
All right.
And preferably something that's at least 2 weeks out for us to, if we can't already, we could clear our schedule in advance, knowing a couple weeks in advance, if we can schedule that far out. Like something after the 26th, 25th.
We'll see. Mr. Hendrickson.
Perhaps if I could just make the suggestion, since we're just talking about general availability, if there are better days of the week or something, could we send you an email to that regard? So that you could schedule with these outside entities?
What I would tell you is what I was told, which was, these meetings generally can be scheduled anytime, weekends, weekdays,
Sure.
without set endings. So in the case of as soon as possible, this is what I got, and we can't work with that. One of the participants is leaving town on the 16th, so it won't be before then. But I can go back for other dates further out. I don't know if it'll be 2 weeks out, but at least further out.
I guess the corollary to my question is, do we have to decide to set the meeting in a meeting? Or is that something that you can
No,
call
we
as a
don't.
special meeting
We don't.
with the clerk, I think? So if you have some dates, we could send you our
But you need to be
availability.
cognizant of how
Oh, yeah.
long we need before we announce.
Understood.
We do not. Kathy?
I'm available March 11th or March 18th or the 25th. Those are all Mondays. But I go to Florida March 30th for 2 weeks, so just keeping that in mind.
And actually, that was one of the considerations why we tried to get it when we did.
Right.
But
So
okay.
those Mondays are all good for me.
All right, we will drop that and move forward. 13, item 13 is board discussion items. And 13A is consulting agreement, 1 month extension for Director Maisner, and Mr. Walsh is going to talk to us about that.
Yeah, thank you. This is up for discussion tonight. If the board seems to favor it, then we would bring it back in a couple weeks. As you know, Director Maisner started with us in October of '99, served 24 years, and decided to retire a couple months ago. And gave me proper notice, which I really appreciated. We worked on this agreement over the course of 6 months and put something together. Appreciate the board's support. And that was a consulting agreement through July. Sitting in through the last 2 or 3 meetings of the task force, which she has been serving on, the Community Senior Center Task Force, which of course 3 board members serve on, and Trustee Wilson chairs, it's become quite evident to me that her voice and her experience and her knowledge of our facilities, our uses, our recreational activities, all that stuff is critically important. And I believe that I've kind of mapped out where our discussions will be in my own mind. I thought we would be around July when we'd be kind of like wrapping up the community engagement and all of that. It looks to me like it's going to be go into August. And so what I'm asking for is a 30-day extension of that consulting agreement. I think it would be, I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's August 2nd is the date. Friday, August 2nd would be the extension. So it'll be through the month of July, ending on August 2nd on Friday if the board approves. And that would give us 30 more days of having her involved in this process, which I think is absolutely critical. In fact, she, to just today's meeting, she provided us some real insight on some possible sites and locations and stuff like that. So that's what I'm requesting. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay? Board members?
Go ahead.
Trustee Wilson?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. As we witnessed today, because you were with us and also Treasurer DeShane, is that Luann has her pulse on everything that's going on in this community. She is that 24 years cannot be replaced by anybody else just coming in new. And what we found is that even today, she said, well, I've got an idea for a different parcel than what we were looking at. And I just can't tell you how important it is to have that. And so I'm very much in favor of doing this 1-month extension because we do believe that we will pretty much be done with the evolution of this project, ready to bring it to you as board members and also to discuss millage and other financial considerations at that time.
Other board members?
Please.
Clerk Guthrie.
So I'm not in favor of the extension of the agreement at this time because it is so far out. I would rather have an extension that's closer to the time of the ending date. I hear what you're saying, but I don't understand why it's before the board now when her contract expires July 2nd. Her current contract expires July 2nd, and we are only in March. We have March, April, May, June. We have 4 more months. I think we have plenty of time to extend the contract later on. If we need to extend it, she obviously has incredible institutional knowledge and adds to the conversation and is very insightful and all those good things. But I don't believe that this is something that the board needs to make a decision on at this time, and I would rather have this back before the board at a later time closer to the expiration date of the current contract. And see where we are and make an assessment at that time rather than 4 months in advance.
May I address that?
Yes, please.
So it's a good question, a good point. The reason that I'm asking this is because, as you know, for those of you that know Director Maisner well, July is a very important golf month. And before, and her recreational things that she's involved with, and before she starts making plans and is going to be out of the area and all of that, I prefer to lock her in to be with us in July. I think it's going to be a critical time for us. So that's why I'm before you tonight, to try to lock her in to being with us. But it's a fair point.
Mr. DeShane.
Also, Supervisor Hassworth, with Trustee Wilson and Supervisor Jackson, Luann's insight has been essential to the group. I like the idea of locking her in now, making sure she's available. This is going to come up right up until the deadline, right up until probably August, before we're going to have something definitive. We need her input. We're going to have a hard time getting all the work done by this date. And so I am certain we're going to keep her very busy, and her input and her professional knowledge has been essential to this task force. So I'm in favor of extending it tonight.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. Yeah, as I was listening to Clerk Guthrie bring up the question of why now, all I could think was, I'm planning my vacations for the summer, or at least I'm dreaming of them at this point. So I totally understand why.
You have no vacation this summer.
No, I probably don't. You're right. But it's nice to dream. So I'll ask this question of Manager Walsh, which is, have you discussed an extension with her, and is she supportive of that?
Yes and yes.
Okay, wonderful. The other question I had was just sort of a process thing. I noticed in the packet, the agreement that was provided, there was an addendum that's already been signed by you and Director Maisner. What caused you to bring this to us but not that?
Okay, so the insurance, there's 2 components to this consulting contract. One is the salary, and then the other is the healthcare. The healthcare goes, there's no need to amend the healthcare because it's for 2024. The salary expires at the end of June. So the only question before you is a 30-day extension on the payroll side, nothing to do with insurance.
No, I understand that. I'm
Okay.
sorry, let me clarify my question.
Okay.
You're bringing this addendum or this amendment to the contract to us, but we didn't see the healthcare extension when it came up, when you were discussing this and eventually signed it in January. That was an addendum to the original agreement that we approved back in July or whatever, we signed off on that?
No, the agreement that we've always had in place was 6 months and 12 months, and that's what was approved in July of.
Okay.
The
My
before.
memory must be
There's been no changes, I have made no change. The question is, have I made any changes to the original agreement approved by the board in July? The answer would be no.
Okay, I didn't see that, I'll have to go back and look, because it's been a while. It just looked like there was an amendment made in January, and if that's not the case, then my apologies, and I will consult the minutes.
Yeah, I'm not sure what was signed in January. It could have been that there was a wording change or something in there, but it didn't change the commitment or the financial commitment that the township board made. But I have not, and Director Tehoff has not modified the contract at all.
Okay. Then I have absolutely no problem with extending this a month. It sounds, I don't sit on the task force, but I am keenly interested in its success. And so if they tell us that, and you tell us that we need her, then absolutely, let's lock her in.
Thank you.
Other comments? Are there other comments? Trustee Sunderland, did you have any additional?
No, I'm fine with extending it for a month. I think that's reasonable.
Clerk Guthrie? Okay, so having taken a bit of a straw vote, you're going to bring it back to the board for board action in some time in the future.
March, excuse me?
There is a motion in the.
Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have put a
We
motion.
haven't, that's
Yeah.
right.
This is not,
There's a motion there.
yeah, this is not time sensitive, so I can bring it back on March 19th for you to give you more time to think about it.
Okay.
I'd like to kind of follow that policy of what the board has to, unless it's in, critical discussion and action.
Okay,
Okay, thank you very much for your consideration.
thank you. And item 13B, federal funding request. Mr. Opsimer. Under,
Good evening
Discussion
Supervisor Jackson and board members. So this discussion item was the conclusion of one of the previous items on your previous meeting agenda. So unfortunately, I have bad news on this agenda item for this evening. So we had a meeting with Senator Stabenow's staff late in the day on Friday. We were going through the various grant opportunities that are available. So unlike the state program, the state's program, which we received the $5 million for the Senior and Community Center for, there is no real criteria. You just, produce a memo or a letter or whatever the community would like, transmit it to the state lawmakers. They will just see if they can put language in the state budget allocating funds for that purpose. Now, the CDS program that's before you this evening, which Senator Peters and Senator Stabenow utilize, well, the entire U.S. Senate utilizes, that is really just the senators trying to give you a slight leg up towards an existing grant opportunity. In reviewing the federal grant opportunities, we would not be eligible for the one pot of funding that would fund such a project as the Senior and Community Center because we do not meet the low to moderate income requirement as a community at large, which is also why we don't typically qualify for CDBG funding, although we did get the CHILL grant, but there's some extenuating circumstances at the state level as to why we were able to get the CHILL grant recently. So I'm still going to pursue a couple of avenues this week and just see if there's something else that we could apply for. But at this time, it does not look like we would ultimately be eligible based on our review of the federal statute and the requirements. So unfortunately, that's the news that I have for you tonight. We will take a closer look, but looking at the projects that are typically funded, MDOT and airport authorities are by and large the predominant winners of these funds each year. The lone caveat being the CDBG funding, but you're seeing communities like the city of Madison Heights, the city of Livonia, the city of Flint, who are eligible for that funding. And unfortunately, it's an all or nothing proposition. So that's what I have for you tonight at this time, regrettably. If you have any questions or any thoughts or ideas, certainly would welcome that input.
Board members? Mr. DeShane?
The $5 million we got from the state for our senior center, community center, that was really a pass-through, if you will, from some of the COVID funding that the state got. Is that correct?
Yes, that was ARPA funding specifically, so.
And that's not like, there's not a new round of ARPA funds for '24, I'm assuming.
No, unfortunately not, and the state's budget is such that that's why we kind of pared down our request to the state, was we were trying to make our request competitive. If we had sought millions, we certainly wouldn't receive millions because they don't have that $9 billion surplus. I believe, and the media reported on this because the media did kind of latch onto the pork spending or the special grants that the lawmakers gave out, and I believe it added up to somewhere between 1.5 and 2 billion.
Okay.
So we were 5 million of that 1.5 or 2 billion. So out of the $9 billion surplus, a healthy amount, 15 to 18%-ish went towards those grants.
Mr. Hendrickson?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. Well, this is disappointing, of course. Just to clarify, this is just for the Senate's programs that we've all been hearing about via various emails from Senator Peters' office.
Correct. This is the U.S. Senate CDS program.
This does not preclude us from seeking funding if the House continues to move forward with I think it's the CPS program.
CPF.
Too many acronyms. It doesn't preclude us from soliciting funds through the CPF program if the House chooses to do that from Congressman Slotkin. Is that accurate?
It would not. We would need more flexibility than what the CDS program is offering, though, through the U.S. Senate.
Sure.
So as of today, I have not heard anything new from Ann Brown and Congresswoman Slotkin's office. But the longer time goes on, the less and less likely it seems that CPF program is to continue. Because typically we would have already heard about it by now, and we would be looking at applying within the next week, typically, but.
Well, there's new leadership in the House.
I see you tomorrow.
Yeah, and that appears to be the problem with the program continuing at this point. But it also seems like Congresswoman Slotkin's office is not getting a lot of information either. So they're just kind of waiting. It's just kind of the wait and see at this time. But they would need to give us greater flexibility. That's one of the challenges. It's the only grant program that we're aware of is the state of Michigan's within LEO, Labor, Economic Growth, the newly renamed department. And that grant opportunity we are not eligible for because we received 2.5 times the maximum award through our request to our state lawmakers. That grant opportunity caps out at $2 million.
Mm-hmm.
I think they funded that with $64 million. So the only grant opportunity that's out there, we've already actually received 2.5 times what it would afford us. So we'll keep looking near and far, but at this time we don't have anything for you to act on.
Yeah, it might be worthwhile touching base with our county counterparts. I know there's been a lot of discussion about the elder services millage and what the future of that looks like. And also, I know that, I think it's the city of Williamston or Stockbridge, one or two of them have applied for funding through the county millages for their senior centers. So it might be worth poking at that and seeing, and I'm quite confident they're running low on money because that was not what they were intending to do with it, but they also didn't really know what they were doing with it from my understanding of the discussion. So this might be the path they choose to go with moving forward.
Okay.
So it might be worth chatting with our county commissioners and seeing what's what over there.
Absolutely. I had heard that there was those discussions going on. I had not heard that anyone or any entity had formally applied to the county for funds.
This was not this year. This was a couple of years ago.
Oh, okay.
So I would take a look back and maybe speak with a couple of folks over there.
Okay. Certainly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hopsimer. We will expect to hear from you again when something changes.
Thank you.
All right. Item 14 is comments from the public. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak to the board at this time? Seeing none, there's item 15, next, other matters and board member comments. I have one. I have resolution in support of International Women's Day and Women's History Month. I would like to read it, or at least parts of it, and offer it for inclusion in our board program. Whereas International Women's Day is celebrated globally on March the 8th to commemorate the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women, and whereas International Women's Day is an occasion to recognize the progress made towards gender equality and to acknowledge the ongoing efforts to promote women's rights and empowerment worldwide. And whereas women play vital roles in our communities, contributing to every aspect of society, including education, healthcare, business, politics, and more. And whereas there is still more work to be done to address gender-based discrimination, violence, and inequalities that persist in our society. Whereas it is essential to raise awareness about the importance of gender equality and to advocate for the rights and empowerment of women and girls in our township. Be it resolved that the Township Board encourages all residents to participate in events and activities that celebrate the achievements of women, raise awareness about gender equality issues, and promote actions to create a more inclusive and equitable society. And then in support of Women's History Month, whereas Women's History Month is celebrated annually during the month of March to honor the contributions, achievements, and experiences of women throughout history, and whereas Women's History Month provides an opportunity to recognize and celebrate the countless women who have made significant contributions to our society, our culture, economy, and community, and whereas the history of women's contributions have often been overlooked, marginalized, and underrepresented in mainstream narratives, and Women's History Month serves as a reminder to acknowledge and appreciate the diverse roles women have played in shaping our world. And now therefore be it resolved by the Township Board of the Charter Township of Meridian, Ingham County, Michigan, that Meridian Township commemorates Women's History Month and the International Women's Day on March 8th to pay tribute to the generations of women who have struggled with adversity and to celebrate their accomplishments, contributions, and history of women in the world, as well as inspire continued efforts to recognize and uplift the voices and experiences of women. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope no one objects to including that.
If I
Certainly
may.
not.
Mr. Walsh.
Thank you. It's interesting that you read that this evening, Supervisor Jackson, because it was noted at a meeting just last week that we had, think about the women in leadership positions in Meridian Township. You ever stop and think about that? Our township board, our EDC, our ZBA, our planning commission, our community resource commission, communications commission, and the list goes on and on. Almost all of our boards and commissions and the township board, Parks Commission, all led by females. Proud of that, proud of our community. So it's worth noting tonight as you read that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hadn't noticed that, actually. Okay, other matters and board member comments? Is there anything else we need to take care of tonight? Then we need to move the township board to enter closed session. Mr. Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I move that the Township Board enter closed session under OMA Section 81H to consult with the Township Attorney regarding a written legal opinion concerning a vendor's breach of contract.
Support.
Then we now go into closed session.
We have to vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor of the motion to move into closed session?
I believe it's a roll call.
A roll call.
You're really trying to move us along,
Hey,
aren't
I'm
you?
telling you, I've lost my way here somewhere.
Trustee Sunland,
Yes.
trustee Trezise,
Yes.
trustee Wilson,
Yes.
supervisor Jackson.
Yes.
Clerk Guthrie votes yes, treasurer DeShane.
Yes.
Trustee Hendrickson.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Now.
That's my voice.